Hello legends, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to run you through 3 of my go-to hip and lower back mobility exercises you'll be able to do in a little circuit. You can follow me along in this workout very easily. This would be something that I would normally do most commonly when we've had like a big trip away to a race, spend a fair bit of time driving. Sometimes we spend 8, 10, 12 hours either side of these race weekends sitting in the van driving. So in that instance, as you probably well know, you can get a little bit tight in the hips and the lower back. So this is 3 of my exercises that I like to open up those areas. So the first one is pretty simple. It's going to hit the lower back and the abs, which is a cobra. If you've ever done any, I guess, yoga, you would be familiar with this exercise. I really like it because it opens up the lower back, but also the abs and the hip flexors. So I just like to do a few little 5-second holds. So we'll hold that position for 5 seconds, come back down. And we're just pushing up to wherever you feel comfortable. As you guys will know, when you spend a bit of time sitting, especially driving, you can get a bit slouched out in your lower back. So I find this is really good just to sort of hit that opposing range. So normally I just do sort of 3 to 4 little 5-second holds up in this cobra position. So the next one is to hit the glutes a little bit more. If you've ever done sort of a 90-90 stretch for the glutes, you'd be probably familiar with this position. This one sort of adds a little bit onto that. So we're going to get into our 90-90 position. So you can see I'm sort of stacked over my hips, front knee at 90, rear knee at 90. Then I'm going to turn around. My left hand here is out 90 degrees to my hip. I'm going to place both hands here. So I'm rotating around. I can already feel like a little bit of a stretch in my hip, and then I'm going to try and lay my shoulder over on the floor. So we're going to do that for reps. So I'm going to go 10 reps. So that's number 2. So your range of motion might not be as much as mine. That's completely fine. What you will find is when you just start, you might only get sort of to here, and you'll feel a nice deep stretch in your glute and your hip. That might be your end range, and then you'll just come up. That's 5. So by getting that rotation and then the little bit of a side bend in here, we're really lengthening that glute. Not just the glutes, but the obliques, right the way down the side of our lower back into the hips. So I think that's 9. We'll go for one more for good measure. So then we flip over, 90-90 on the other side, same thing, we're going to take the hands out to the side, and then we're going to complete it on the other side. So I am completely stone cold doing this workout. I've just come out of my office doing a bit of programming and client check-ins for the morning, so you will probably feel if you run through this circuit for a couple of rounds, you will tend to sort of loosen up second round and get a little bit more length in there. Honestly, this would probably be, if I could only do one exercise to loosen up those areas that get a bit tight after a big drive, this one would probably be it. It really hits the hips, the spine, the core. So next one is going to be a little bit more hip flexor oriented. This is where the foam roller comes in. Normally I would actually do this in a squat rack, but for the purpose of this exercise, if you don't have a squat rack at home, we're just going to come into a half kneeling position. So what I'm going to do is from the side, I'll give you a quick look, is the first part of this movement is we're pushing, imagine we're pushing our hips forward. So I'm getting a nice deep stretch into the hip flexor there. So my foam roller is beside me there. I'm just going to use that as a little bit of a prop for balance. Once I push the hips forward, I can feel that nice deep stretch in the hip flexors. I'm going to take a side bend. So I'm reaching over my head with that spare arm. Just balance on my little roller there. What that does, it really lengthens the hip flexors, Gets right down the side of the hip into the rib cage. Again, the spine. So, although this is a hip mobility routine, you'll notice all of these exercises are getting the spine moving as well. So, our spine is what feeds movement into our hips. So if you're feeling locked up in your hips, most likely you're locked up in your spine as well. So they kind of go hand in hand, mobilizing the hips and the spine. So we're going to hold this position anyway for around about 45 seconds, which I reckon we probably got there. And then again, we're going to flip over and hit the other side. So another thing that's worth mentioning, particularly on a stretch like this where we're sort of holding this position, is using our breathing. So what you might find if you're particularly tight is when you move into a stretch, you might feel quite tense, even short of breath. If you think of that, like holding your breath, that actually creates tension in the body. So what we want to do is try and relax. So we want to exhale. So take a breath in and then a slow exhale. And we want to do that, for a succession of breaths. So another breath in. Each time you exhale, you should feel you can just soften a little bit and get a little bit of extra range. I can feel every time as I breathe and exhale that I'm just getting into that end range just a little bit more. So that's one round. So you could complete that on the short side, 2 rounds. Even 1 round's better than nothing, don't get me wrong. But generally 2 to 3 rounds, if you're feeling super tight, 2 to 3 rounds is enough to sort of get things loosened up. So they would be my 3 go-to exercises. I'll put a little link actually in the description of this video where you can download a free mobility PDF, which has these exercises and a few others, a little bit more structure there if you're looking for a mobility routine to follow with exercise demonstrations to hit the lower back and the hip mobility.